The strange feeding. The night was quiet after the battle. The ruins of the outpost still smoking under the dim light of 2 moons. A human soldier named Daniel walked carefully through the broken ground, his boots crunching against the debris. The air smelled of fire, blood, and dust, yet in the middle of destruction, he heard something soft. A weak cry. It was not the sound of an enemy, nor the sound of a wounded soldier. It was something small, fragile, and innocent. He followed the sound until he found a little puppy trapped under a broken piece of metal. The tiny creature shivered, its fur covered in dirt, eyes filled with fear. Daniel bent down, pushed the metal aside, and gently lifted the animal into his arms. The puppy whimpered, licking his fingers with a tongue so weak it barely touched his skin. Daniel sighed. "Poor little guy, you don't belong here," he whispered. He searched his pocket, pulling out a small piece of ration bread. He tore a bit and placed it near the puppy's mouth, but the puppy refused, too weak to chew. Daniel tried water from his flask, dripping a few drops on its tongue. But again the puppy turned its head. Frustration and sadness filled him. He wanted to help, but he did not know how. From behind him came a soft voice, strange but calm. "You are doing it wrong." Daniel turned quickly, hand near his weapon, but relaxed when he saw her. It was Lyra, the alien girl who had been assigned to their squad. Her skin shimmered faintly under the moonlight, her large silver eyes watching with curiosity. Her movements were graceful, her face unreadable, yet there was a softness in the way she looked at the puppy. Daniel frowned. "What do you mean wrong?" "It won't eat, it won't drink. I don't know what else to do." Lyra stepped closer, her long hair flowing with the night wind. She reached out her delicate hands and gently took the puppy. The little creature trembled, but did not resist, as if it sensed something different in her. Daniel watched closely, suspicion mixed with curiosity. Lyra sat down on a flat rock, holding the puppy against her chest. She whispered words in her own language, soft and soothing. The puppy calmed, its weak breathing slowing. Daniel tilted, his head confused. "What are you doing? Are you singing to it?" Lyra shook her head slowly, her expression calm. "No, I am preparing to feed it in the only way it will survive." Before Daniel could ask more, she moved in a way that froze him. She shifted the puppy in her arms and began to let it feed directly from her. Daniel's eyes widened, shock spreading across his face. His mind raced. He had never seen anything like this, never even imagined it. He wanted to speak, to ask, but words stuck in his throat. The puppy, once weak and fading, now drank eagerly, its tail giving a faint wag. Life seemed to flow back into its small body, as if the alien girl's essence carried more than just nourishment. Daniel felt a strange mix of emotions: awe, confusion, disbelief, and even a strange respect. He looked around, making sure no one else was watching, because no one would believe this. He barely believed it himself. Minutes passed, the night silent except for the soft sound of the puppy feeding. Finally, the creature pulled back, licking its lips, eyes brighter, tail wagging with a spark of life. It yawned and curled into Lyra's arms, falling into a peaceful sleep. Lyra looked down at it with gentle eyes, then slowly looked up at Daniel. Her silver gaze reflected the moon's, and she spoke simply, "Now it will live." Daniel struggled to find words. That was... I don't even know what to say. His heart pounded. His training told him to question, to judge. Yet his soul whispered something different. He had just witnessed an act that crossed the borders of species, culture, and logic. Something raw. Something pure. Something that shook the very idea of what it meant to care. Lyra stroked the puppy's head softly, her voice calm. "On my world, we share life in many ways. This is natural to me." She looked back at the sleeping puppy, ignoring his wide eyes and trembling voice. Daniel took a step back, his mind torn. Part of him wanted to turn away, to forget what he had seen, but another part knew he would never forget, not for the rest of his life. The night stretched on, the smoke of battle fading slowly. Yet in that small corner of the ruined outpost, a strange memory was born. A human soldier stood speechless. An alien girl cradled a puppy, and the universe felt different. Daniel whispered under his breath, more to himself than to her, "You left me completely stunned." But Lyra did not answer. She only held the tiny creature closer, as if protecting it from the cruel world outside. The stars above burned silently, bearing witness to the strange act. A moment that would mark the beginning of something no one could explain. And though Daniel could not yet understand, he felt it deep in his chest. This was not the end. It was only the beginning. The human shock. Daniel could not sleep that night. He sat near the fire, the glow painting shadows across his tired face. The image of Lyra feeding the puppy played again and again in his mind. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw it. Every time he tried to push it away, it returned stronger. He had fought in many battles, seen strange alien weapons, and even survived creatures from other worlds, but nothing had left him speechless like what he saw hours ago. It was not violent, it was not terrifying, yet it shook him deeper than war ever could. He rubbed his temples, whispering to himself, "What did I just witness?" The puppy slept peacefully beside Lyra, curled against her chest, its breathing calm, its small tail twitching from a dream. Lyra sat quietly, her silver eyes reflecting the flames. She looked calm, almost holy, as if the act was nothing unusual, nothing shocking, but for Daniel, it was everything. His squadmates murmured nearby. Some noticed but dared not ask. They had seen Daniel carry the weak puppy, and later they saw it resting in the alien girl's arms, alive and healthy. No one asked how, no one wanted to know. War made men turn away from questions they could not handle. But Daniel was not like them. He needed answers. He stood slowly, moving closer to her. His boots made a faint crunch on the ground, and Lyra's gaze lifted toward him. Her expression remained calm, unreadable, but her eyes seemed to know what he would ask. Daniel hesitated, his throat dry. Finally, he spoke, voice low, "What you did. Why would you do that?" Lyra tilted her head, her long hair catching the firelight. She stroked the puppy's fur as if it were the most natural thing in the universe. Her voice was soft, calm, almost musical. "Because life is fragile, and when life asks, I answer." Daniel frowned. "But it was unnatural, at least to me. We don't do that. Not with animals." His words stumbled, his training clashing with his human instincts. Yet part of him could not deny the truth. The puppy lived because of her. Lyra looked down, her silver eyes heavy with meaning. "On my world, survival is not always about strength or weapons. Sometimes it is about giving a piece of yourself so that another can live. Is that so strange?" Daniel clenched his fists, not in anger, but in frustration. He wanted to argue, wanted to say it was wrong, but his own heart betrayed him. The sight of the puppy, now warm and alive, silenced him. Instead he whispered, "I don't understand. But I can't say you were wrong." The silence stretched between them. The fire cracked. The wind whispered across the ruins, and above them, the stars remained quiet. Daniel sat across from her, his eyes never leaving the small creature resting. In her arms, the puppy made a tiny sound, pressing closer to Lyra, and Daniel felt something strange. Jealousy, admiration, confusion, all at once. He leaned forward, voice steady this time. "Do all of your kind do this, or is it only you?" Lyra's lips curved into the faintest smile. "We all can, but not all choose to. For some, compassion is weakness. For others, it is strength. I choose strength." Daniel stared at her, trying to read the mystery behind her words. In that moment, he realized something unsettling. She was not just an ally fighting beside them. She was something far more complex, and maybe far more dangerous. The night grew colder, and Daniel wrapped his jacket tighter, yet no matter the chill, he felt heat inside, not from the fire, but from the memory. He replayed the scene in his head. Not only the act itself, but the way she carried it with pride. She did not flinch under his gaze, did not hide. She only looked at him as if daring him to judge, and he realized he could not. Hours passed, and the camp slowly fell into silence. One by one, the soldiers closed their eyes, trying to escape into dreams. But Daniel and Lyra remained awake, the unspoken truth hanging between them. Finally, Daniel broke the silence again. Back home, people would never accept what you did. They would call it wrong, unnatural, maybe even cruel. Lyra did not blink. Back home, on my world. They would call it love. The word struck him harder than a bullet. Love? Was that what he had seen? Was that what stunned him so deeply? Not the act itself, but the meaning behind it. A love so powerful that it ignored barriers of species. Logic and fear. Daniel leaned back, exhaling slowly. The weight of her words pressing against his chest. The fire dimmed, and the first light of dawn began to touch the sky. Daniel closed his eyes for a moment, finally allowing himself rest. But as he drifted into sleep, one thought stayed clear in his mind. He whispered under his breath, words only the night could hear. She left me speechless, and I don't think I'll ever look at her the same way again. The camp's reactions. The morning came slowly, light creeping over the battlefield like a cautious traveler. The camp stirred awake, soldiers moving stiffly, their faces tired, their voices heavy with the weight of another day. But whispers had already begun to travel through the squad. Whispers about the alien girl, about what she had done. Daniel heard them, sharp and quick, carried like sparks in dry grass. Did you see the puppy? It was dying last night, one soldier muttered. Now it's running around, stronger than ever. I swear that alien had something to do with it, another replied. Some men chuckled nervously, others shook their heads as if to push the thought away. But curiosity had already infected them, and soldiers never kept secrets for long. Daniel sat by the edge of the fire pit, pretending not to listen, but every word cut into him. He had seen the truth, and the truth was not something he could explain without sounding insane. He looked toward Lyra, who sat a short distance away, calmly repairing a piece of her armor. The puppy curled at her feet, tail wagging lazily, completely at peace in her presence. The picture was innocent, almost ordinary, yet Daniel knew it was anything but. A group of soldiers gathered closer, stealing glances at her. One of them, a tall man named Harris, spoke louder than the others. Strange how that mutt suddenly got better, don't you think? Another laughed. Maybe she fed it alien medicine, or maybe she's hiding something. Their voices carried mocking tones, but underneath Daniel heard something else. Fear. Fear of what they did not understand. Fear of what broke the rules of their world. The commander arrived soon after, his presence cutting through the noise. Captain Reeves was a hard man, face carved with lines of war, eyes sharp as steel. He looked around, sensing the tension. What's going on here? He demanded. The soldiers fell silent, exchanging uncertain glances. Finally Harris stepped forward, his voice uncertain. Sir, it's the alien girl. She did something last night, something strange. Reeves turned his gaze to Daniel, sharp and direct. Is this true, soldier? Daniel hesitated, his heart pounding. He could feel Lyra's calm eyes on him, waiting, testing. Should he tell the truth? Should he expose her, or should he stay silent? After a long pause, he finally spoke. She saved the puppy, sir. That's all, nothing more. The commander studied him, eyes narrowing. He was not a man easily fooled, but he also knew when to leave a mystery untouched. With a grunt, he turned away. Then let it be. We don't have time for fairy tales. The enemy is regrouping. Focus on survival, not stories. His voice carried finality, but the unease remained in the camp. Soldiers returned to their tasks, but the whispers never truly stopped. Daniel sat quietly, his mind torn. He had protected Lyra, but deep inside, he wondered if hiding the truth was the right choice. He looked at her again, the way she stroked the puppy's fur, the calmness in her silver eyes. She gave no sign of fear, no sign of regret, as if judgment from humans meant nothing to her. Daniel realized something unsettling. She had known this reaction would come, yet she did it anyway. Later that day, while preparing their gear, Harris approached Daniel privately. His tone was sharp, his eyes suspicious. "You saw it, didn't you? Whatever she did, you saw it. Why are you protecting her?" Daniel clenched his jaw, replying carefully, "Because maybe it's not something we should fear. Maybe it's something we should respect." Harris scoffed. "Respect? She's not human, Daniel, don't forget that. They don't think like us. They don't live like us." He leaned closer, whispering, "If she can do that to a dog, what else can she do to us?" The word struck Daniel harder than he expected. It was a thought he had tried to bury, but hearing it aloud made it real. Could her ability, her act of compassion, also be a weapon? Daniel shook the thought away, refusing to believe it. Yet the seed of doubt had already been planted. As night returned, the squad gathered around the dim fire once again. Lyra remained at the edge, silent, apart, as if she already knew she was the center of their suspicions. The puppy played in the dust, yipping happily, innocent of the storm it had caused. Daniel sat watching, torn between two worlds, his loyalty to his squad and the strange, growing respect for the alien girl. Finally, unable to bear the silence, he spoke softly toward her. "They don't understand you. They don't even try." Lyra lifted her gaze, her eyes reflecting the flames. "Do you understand me?" she asked simply. Daniel opened his mouth, but no words came, only silence. For the first time, he realized he did not know the answer. Not yet. The aliens passed. The night air was heavy. The fire in the camp crackled low, casting faint light on tired faces. Most of the soldiers were asleep, their weapons resting beside them, their bodies curled against the cold ground. Daniel could not rest. His thoughts kept circling back to Lyra, to the act she had done, to the way the others looked at her with suspicion. He felt the weight of silence pressing on him, so finally, he walked toward her. Lyra sat alone near the edge of the ruins, her back against a broken wall, the puppy curled in her lap. Her silver eyes gazed up at the twin moons above, distant and calm, as if she belonged more to the stars than the earth. Daniel stopped a few steps away. "Uncertain? Can't sleep either?" he asked quietly. She turned her gaze toward him, her expression unreadable, then nodded once. "Sleep avoids me when memories arrive." Daniel frowned, curiosity rising. "Memories of what?" Lyra's hand stroked the puppy's fur slowly, her voice soft but carrying weight. "My home. My people. The lessons we carry since birth." Daniel sat down across from her, the firelight flickering between them. He leaned forward, speaking gently. "Tell me, what was it like, your world?" For a long time she was silent, only the sound of the wind moving through the ruins. Then finally she spoke, her words painting pictures of a world Daniel could barely imagine. "My world was not kind. Daniel, it was beautiful, yes, but beauty there is cruel. The forests glow with life, yet every shadow hides something hungry. Our rivers sing, but they flood and drown without warning. Survival was never given. It was taken, earned, and sometimes shared." Daniel listened, captivated. Her eyes glimmered as if seeing faraway lands. "We grew knowing that life is fragile. Every creature, no matter how small, held a place in the circle. When one suffered, the balance shifted. When one died, it was felt by all. My people learned to give what they could, even if it was their own strength. Their own body." She paused, her fingers trembling just slightly as they brushed the puppy's ear. "When I was young, I found a bird, its wing broken. My mother told me to let it go, but I could not, so I gave what I could, and the bird lived. From that day, I was marked. My people said I had the heart of the giver." Daniel's chest tightened. The image of a young alien girl saving a fragile bird struck him harder than he expected. "You've been doing this since you were a child," he whispered. Lyra nodded slowly. "Yes, it is who I am. It is who I will always be. Though many of my kind call it weakness, a waste of life energy. They say we should give only to the strong, only to the worthy. But I do not believe that. Even the smallest creature deserves a chance. Her voice trembled for the first time. A crack in her calm armor, she looked down, her silver eyes soft. I lost many things on my world, Daniel, friends, family, even children. War took them, hunger took them, and sometimes I wonder if giving was enough, if my compassion was ever enough. Daniel felt his heart twist. He had seen men cry out in battle, but he had never seen someone hold so much pain quietly inside. He leaned closer, his voice firm but gentle. You saved that puppy, Lyra, and you've saved more lives here than most of us combined. Don't ever think it's not enough. She met his eyes. A faint flicker of warmth appearing. You speak like you understand, she said softly. Daniel shook his head slowly. Maybe I don't, not yet, but I want to, for a moment. Silence hung between them, not heavy, but fragile like glass. The puppy shifted in her lap, pressing closer to her warmth, as if sensing her hidden sorrow. Lyra's hand trembled again, then steadied. On my world, those who give are remembered, even when they are gone. We believe the stars themselves are made of the lives we shared. Every spark a reminder that compassion never dies. Her words lingered in the night, echoing in Daniel's mind like ancient truth. He swallowed hard, realizing something he had not before. This alien girl was not just different in body. She was different in spirit. Her strength was not in weapons, not in armor, but in something humanity often forgot: sacrifice born of love. And that strength, Daniel knew, was far greater than the sharpest blade. The fire burned low, the cold wind rising, but Daniel no longer felt the chill. He sat in silence, listening to her voice, to the story of a world far away and deep inside. He knew that he would carry her words forever, for in that moment, under the moons and stars, Lyra's past was no longer hers alone. It had become his too. The growing bond days passed, and the war moved them from one ruined outpost to another. Each place looked the same: broken walls, black smoke, and silence where life once was. But within that destruction, something new had begun to grow, something fragile yet strong. The bond between a human soldier, an alien girl, and a small puppy. Daniel had noticed the change first. The puppy, once weak and dying, now bounced at his feet with endless energy. Every morning it ran between him and Lyra, as if they were already a family. It followed them during patrols, wagging its tail even in the middle of danger. And every night it curled against Lyra, finding comfort in her strange warmth. At first, the squad grumbled, complaining about the distraction. Why are we keeping a mutt in the middle of war? Harris sneered more than once. But over time, even he softened, tossing scraps of food toward the animal when he thought no one was watching. The men had begun to laugh again, if only for a moment, whenever the puppy chased after shadows or stumbled over its own paws. In the middle of endless fighting, the little creature reminded them that life could still be innocent. But for Daniel, the change ran deeper. He found himself watching Lyra more than he realized. The way she carried herself with quiet grace. The way her silver eyes softened when the puppy looked up at her. Sometimes she would hum in her strange language, and though Daniel could not understand the words, he felt their meaning. Her presence steadied him, like a calm in the storm of war. One evening, while the squad rested in the shell of a ruined building, Daniel sat beside her. The puppy slept between them, its tiny body warm, its breathing steady. For a long time neither of them spoke. Only the sound of the fire and the distant wind filled the silence. Finally Daniel whispered, "You've changed this place, you know. It's not just the puppy you saved, it's all of us." Lyra tilted her head, her expression unreadable. "I do not understand." Daniel smiled faintly, his voice low. "Before, this squad was nothing but steel and orders. We followed commands, we fought, we killed, that was it. But now we laugh sometimes, we feel something we forgot we had, maybe hope." Her eyes lingered on him, long and steady, as if she were searching for truth inside his words. Then she looked down at the puppy, stroking its fur gently. "Life grows, even in broken ground, Daniel. Perhaps you humans are finally remembering that. Her words stayed with him long after. Every mission, every step, he began to see the world differently. Where others saw only rubble, he imagined rebuilding. Where others saw only blood, he remembered her voice, reminding him that even the smallest life mattered. And slowly, he realized the truth. He was not only fighting to survive anymore, he was fighting because she believed survival had meaning. But bonds in war are never safe. One night, as they returned from patrol, gunfire erupted from the cliffs above. The squad scattered, bullets sparking against the rocks. Daniel dove behind cover, his heart racing. Shouting orders, he looked back, just in time to see Lyra clutching the puppy to her chest, refusing to leave it behind even in the chaos. "Drop it, Lyra. Get to cover," Harris shouted angrily, firing into the dark. But she ignored him, moving with sharp, precise steps, protecting the tiny life as fiercely as if it were her own blood. Daniel's chest tightened. She was risking herself, and he could not let her stand alone. He ran to her side, covering her with fire, his voice sharp. "Move with me. We'll make it through." Their eyes met for just a moment, and in that instant, trust became something more. It was no longer just survival, it was faith. Together they broke through the attack, the rest of the squad rallying behind them. By the time the gunfire ceased, the enemy retreated into the hills, leaving only silence. The squad regrouped, breathing hard, sweat and blood mixing in the dust. And there she stood, still holding the puppy, its tiny face peeking out, unharmed. Daniel felt his throat tighten. He had fought to protect comrades before, but this felt different. He had not just protected her, he had chosen her. The squad muttered among themselves, some shaking their heads, others watching with quiet respect. But Daniel no longer cared about whispers or doubt. All he cared about was the way her silver eyes softened when they met his, the unspoken gratitude shining there. In that moment, he knew something he dared not admit aloud. He trusted her more than anyone else on this battlefield. That night, as the squad rested again, the puppy curled against both of them. Daniel broke the silence once more. "You're not just saving lives, Lyra, you're changing them. Mine most of all." She looked at him, her face calm but her eyes deeper than the night sky. Her voice came softly. "And you, Daniel, you are changing me too." The fire burned low. The ruins faded into shadow. And though war still surrounded them, something unbreakable had been born in that fragile corner of the night. A bond stronger than orders, stronger than fear, stronger even than the walls between human and alien. Asterisk. The test of trust. The morning came with no warning. The squad had barely begun packing their gear when the first shell landed. The ground shook, dust exploded into the air, and men shouted as more fire rained from the cliffs above. The enemy had returned, stronger this time, and they were ready to wipe the squad from the valley. Daniel grabbed his rifle, shouting orders, his voice barely rising above the thunder of explosions. "Take cover, spread out, keep your heads down." The soldiers scrambled, weapons firing back into the haze, bullets snapping through the air like angry insects. But Daniel's eyes searched for only one figure. Lyra. He spotted her across the ruins, crouched behind a broken wall, clutching the puppy tight to her chest. Even in the chaos, she would not let go. Daniel cursed under his breath, then ran low through the dust, sliding into cover beside her. "Lyra, you need to leave it. You'll get yourself killed," he shouted, his voice raw, but her silver eyes locked onto his, steady and unshaken. "I will not abandon life. Not even the smallest." Daniel stared at her, heart pounding. He wanted to argue, to pull the puppy away and force her into safety, but he knew it was useless. This was who she was. This was her truth. And he realized then that he had no choice but to trust it. He gritted his teeth, loading another clip. "Fine, then we fight." Together, the battle raged, the squad firing desperately, enemy shadows moving through smoke and fire. Harris shouted from the far side, "We're pinned, they're pushing closer." The commander barked orders, Hold the line, do not give ground. But the enemy pressed harder, forcing them back inch by inch. Then it happened. The wall behind them shattered from an explosion. Daniel was thrown to the ground, his ears ringing, his body aching. Through the dust he saw Lyra stumble, the puppy yelping in her arms. 2 enemy soldiers appeared through the smoke, weapons raised. Daniel's heart froze. He was too far, too slow. But Lyra moved with a speed he had never seen. She twisted, her blade flashing, her movements fluid and precise. The first soldier fell before he even fired. The second staggered back, bleeding. She shielded the puppy with her body, her face calm even in the storm of death. Daniel pulled himself up, finishing the second soldier with a burst of gunfire. He stumbled toward her, his voice sharp with panic. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, dust clinging to her pale skin, her silver eyes burning with focus. "No, but we cannot stay here. They will break through." Daniel nodded, his chest tight. This was no longer about orders, no longer about survival. It was about trust, about faith in each other. Together they moved, covering each other with flawless rhythm. When Daniel fired, Lyra advanced. When she struck, he protected her flank. The puppy remained in her arms, trembling but alive, its small heartbeat echoing the rhythm of their fight. Every second was a test, every decision balanced between life and death. And through it all, Daniel realized something. He trusted her more than he trusted himself. The squad pulled back toward a narrow pass, their only hope of holding the enemy. Captain Reeves shouted, "Hold this choke point, or we're finished." The men dug in, weapons blazing. The air filled with fire and screams. Daniel and Lyra reached the line last, sliding into cover side by side, their breathing heavy, their bodies bruised, but neither letting go. For what felt like hours, the battle raged. The enemy pushed again and again, each wave stronger than the last, but the squad held, bleeding, fighting, refusing to break, and in the center of it all, Daniel and Lyra stood back to back, their trust carrying them through the fire. When the final charge broke, when the enemy finally retreated into the cliffs, silence fell heavy. Over the valley, the ground was littered with smoke, blood, and broken bodies. The squad collapsed into exhaustion, some cheering weakly, others too tired to speak. Daniel dropped to his knees, his rifle slipping from his hand, his chest heaving with breath. Beside him, Lyra knelt too, the puppy still alive, still safe, its small eyes blinking up at them. Daniel turned to her, his throat tight. "You were right, Lyra. You never abandoned it. And because of that, none of us abandoned each other." Her eyes softened, her voice quiet but firm. "Trust is the only shield stronger than armor." "Daniel, today you proved it." He looked at her, and for the first time, he understood completely. She was not just an ally, not just an alien fighting by their side. She was the heart of their survival, the one who carried life even through fire and death. And though war was far from over, Daniel knew one truth would never change. He trusted her with everything, even his own life. The sun dipped behind the cliffs, painting the battlefield in red. The squad sat in silence, gathering what strength they could. But in that silence, something unbreakable had been forged. And Daniel whispered to himself, so quietly only the wind could hear, "She is more than I ever imagined, and I will never let her stand alone again." The human's realization. The battlefield was silent at last, the echoes of gunfire fading. Into the distant mountains, smoke drifted slowly across the ruined valley, carrying with it the scent of fire and iron. The squad sat scattered among the rocks, each man battered, bloodied, but alive. For the first time in days, Daniel let himself breathe. He leaned against a broken wall, his rifle resting beside him. His arms trembled from exhaustion, but his eyes stayed fixed on a single sight. Lyra sat nearby, her silver eyes lowered. The puppy curled asleep in her lap. She stroked its fur gently, as if the chaos of war had never touched her, as if life itself bent around her will to protect. Daniel watched quietly, his heart heavy. He had seen soldiers die for comrades, seen men sacrifice themselves for victory. But what he saw in her was something different, something deeper. She had not fought for orders or for glory. She had fought for life, any life, no matter how small. Harris muttered nearby, his voice softer than Daniel had ever heard it. I don't get her, but damn if she didn't save us today. The other men nodded quietly. No one dared mock her anymore. They had seen her carry life through fire, and none could deny the strength it took. As night fell, the squad lit a small fire, their faces lit with orange glow. But Daniel could not shake the weight inside him. He moved closer to her, sitting across the fire, his voice low. Lyra, why do you keep doing this? Why risk everything for something so small? Her eyes lifted to his, silver reflecting flame, calm yet unyielding. She answered simply, because no life is small, Daniel, not to me. Her words struck him like a blade, sharp, undeniable. He opened his mouth to argue, to reason, but no words came, because deep down, he knew she was right. How many times had humans dismissed the weak, abandoned the helpless, justified cruelty with logic? And yet here was this alien girl, showing him that true strength was not in killing, but in protecting. The puppy stirred in her lap, yawning before. Curling closer, Lyra smiled faintly, her hand brushing its tiny head. Daniel felt a strange ache in his chest, an ache that was not pain, but something heavier, something more powerful. He whispered, You've changed me, Lyra. She tilted her head, her voice soft. Changed you how? Daniel swallowed hard, his throat tight. Before I met you, war was just war. Orders were just orders. Survival was enough. I never thought beyond the mission, never thought about what life really meant, but now I can't stop thinking, if saving one puppy matters, maybe saving anything, anyone, always matters. For the first time, her calm broke, a faint shine in her eyes. She looked at him not as a soldier, not as a stranger, but as something closer, something deeper. Then you understand, she whispered. Compassion is not weakness. It is the fire that keeps worlds alive. The words sank into him, deeper than any lesson from war, deeper than any command from his leaders. Daniel realized then that he was no longer just protecting her. He was learning from her. And in that realization, he felt something shift inside, a seed of hope, planted by a girl who should have been alien, but somehow felt closer than anyone he had ever known. The night stretched on, the fire burning low. The squad drifted into uneasy sleep. But Daniel remained awake, his eyes fixed on the stars above. He thought of her words, of her world, of the way she had fed the puppy without hesitation. A memory that once shocked him now felt sacred. What had once seemed unnatural now seemed holy. He whispered to the stars, voice soft but firm. She left me speechless, and maybe she's left all of us changed. The puppy barked in its sleep, a tiny sound, almost as if agreeing. Daniel smiled faintly, closing his eyes at last. And in that moment, he knew that no matter how long the war lasted, no matter what battles still awaited them, he would carry this truth forever, that sometimes the greatest strength is not found in weapons, but in the quiet act of giving. As dawn broke, the first light spilling over the mountains, Daniel rose with the others. The squad prepared to march again. Weary but alive, Lyra stood beside him, the puppy resting in her arms. Their eyes met, and no words were needed. Trust had been tested, faith had been proven, and something eternal had been born. The sun rose higher, painting the ruins gold, and as they walked forward into another day of war, Daniel felt no fear, because he had seen something more powerful than death itself, compassion, carried in the heart of an alien girl. And he knew, deep in his soul, that humanity would never be the same.